And I think it's really important. And I was doing the schedule actually before this, building out the fall schedule for our team. And I originally had us finishing like November 16th and playing 20 games. And partially due to gym constraints and, access to courts in November that we have, I decided to end our season November 2nd. Now you could say, oh my goodness, like 20 games, like should play another week, another couple of weeks. And I decided that less is actually more.
You are listening to the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast, transforming athletes into leaders on and off the court with host Coach Furtado. Coaches, are you ready to take your passion for coaching and turn it into a full-time career? I know the challenges firsthand, but the Make Money Coaching Sports program helped me take BTG basketball full-time. If you're tired of juggling coaching part-time and want to fully focus on doing what you love, this business accelerator will give you the tools and support to make it happen. Hit the link in the show notes below to learn more and start living your dream.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. I'm your host, Coach Furtado, and in today's episode, I'm going to address the epidemic of burnout in youth sports, specifically year-round travel sports and club sports, from my perspective as a club director who also experienced burnout during this year. So I'm going to use basketball as my barometer because I am the director of BTG basketball. It's the world I live in. On average, actually not on average, so an NBA season, right, is, let's say, October through June if you're lucky and you play in the finals. Now, I did not calculate the number of games. We'll say between October and April, teams play 82 games. Okay, so 82 games. Now, there are 52 weekends in a year, with there being like 52 on average, 52 Saturdays, 52 Sundays. So if we divide that in half, because on average, the average club's calendar schedule is you play every other weekend, right? That's at least the model we've kind of been following with BTG basketball. And then if you break that down, so on average, you play between 3 and 5 games on a weekend, right? If you do a tournament, if you're in a tournament every other weekend, and it's a little bit of an extreme example, but on average, if you played every other weekend the entire year, your youth athletes would be playing in between 78 games and 130 games a year. And if you look at it, right, the NBA, obviously, the physicality is a little bit different. They're professionals. They're playing at a high level. However, our athletes are playing a similar number of games, honestly, probably more games than an NBA player throughout the year. And the pediatrics, and then there's a lot of recommendations. It's around 15, 16 is when you can really start to your body is ready to play one singular sport consistently throughout the year. Now we're seeing kids at a way younger age play the same sport throughout the entire year. And we're wondering why we're burning our athletes out. So it's a real problem. The number of sheer games that we are having our athletes play the entire year. Because the thing about these travel tournaments is they're intense, right? They are, I think especially for the middle school age range, high school, it's a little bit different. High school, I feel like the intensity is not the same of a varsity level game, right? It's not the same game planning. However, I'm just talking about the physical aspect of playing games, right? When we're playing all these games, right, you're seeing these athletes, two of the best NBA players in the modern game, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, both tearing their Achilles in this past playoffs. They are products of this modern day AAU club basketball, which obviously they're at the pinnacle. They have reached the cream of the crop, and AAU basketball travel basketball, I'm sure, has helped get them to where they are. So it's not like obviously club basketball or travel sports are negative, because I want to talk about how we can actually address this as club sports, as club programs. I, of course, am a believer in sport, right? Sport is powerful. However, we need to go back, right? If we're going to really address this burnout of kids quitting, because I have some of my best and most talented players. One of them quit. One of them would quit, but loves his brother so much and his teammates and his friends that he was going to continue playing because he's really good and he wants to, provide for the team. It's not the same game for him anymore because we burnt them out. And that's actually not even just from club sports. That's just from high school sports, club sports. It's just year round, right? The year round seriousness is really, it can be challenging for kids. A lot of kids are skipping, going to the beach on the weekends and doing, different fun things. And obviously, this podcast is not, if your athlete is a top 1% athletic athlete and the goal is to play collegiately and play professionally, then by all means, right? That's a choice that you can make, and that's a choice to continue to play. Now, I also want to acknowledge that a lot of the kids that we work with and that are in our program, they'll try other sports, and basketball is their favorite, right? So they love basketball. So it's like, I don't want to say, hey, force your kid loves basketball, force him to take a season off. Now, how do we deal with this epidemic of burnout? What we're doing at BTG basketball this fall, this winter. So instead of doing a fall and a winter season for our middle school athletes, in the winter, we are just going to train, right? We'll just do basketball training. We'll do multi-sport training. We'll get some multi-sport action in there. We'll do some 3-on-3 tournaments. So instead of always going and playing at these highly competitive tournaments, we get a break, right? And we get a break. And I think it's really important. And I was doing the schedule actually before this, building out the fall schedule for our team. And I originally had us finishing like November 16th and playing 20 games. And partially due to gym constraints and, access to courts in November that we have, I decided to end our season November 2nd. Now you could say, oh my goodness, like 20 games, like you should play another week, another couple of weeks. And I decided that less is actually more. And what we need to do to end this burnout is we need to play less games and we need to give kids more freedom within structure, right? I think this generation, one of the challenges that I see is they are always told what to do now. They're not playing as much at the park and having fun with their friends just in the backyards as much as our generation. Everything is structured, everything is rigid, everything is technique driven. And technique, this can be a conversation for another day, but technique varies based on people's body, right? Based on people's genetics. You can't have the same, me and Michael Jordan or LeBron would have a different jump shot because our genetics are significantly different. So we need to allow more space for creativity. We need to have more practice sessions and follow a European model where we are playing less. And that's something that we're going to continue to innovate and be intentional about at BTG is at the same time, we did 5 total weekends of playing and we did 3 tournaments, 2 shootouts. Now, a shootout, for those that don't know, it's just one day. So that way, they can either train on that Sunday or they can take Sunday off and spend it with a family. And then last, what I'll kind of, wrap it up with is in terms of, obviously there's, clubs are a business, right? I'm a business. I experience the low months, right? When we aren't in club season, right? Obviously, when we're in club season, right? It's great, right? We have more money coming in. And I think we need to do a better job about being intentional about creating an experience that's more than just games, right? That we can be a business and operate year round that also fits the needs and it's combination and the demands, right? Because the demands are games, right? The kids want to play games, the parents want to play games, everyone wants to be a part of it. I get it, right? It's kind of the American youth sports way. How can we be creative? How can we create a great experience for parents and kids that we have consistent programming, but it's more than just we're going to go play games on the weekend, every weekend, 3-on-3 tournaments, right? Trainings, different ways we can help our athletes connect because, again, youth sports is about fun and character development. Those are the two most important things for youth sports, right? To develop young people to be better people beyond the game of basketball, beyond the game of whatever sport, so they can be great, successful, citizens, community members, college students once the ball stops bouncing. So, I'm going to recap that. We want to make sure that we're playing less games. We're being strategic about our programming. We're allowing our parents to take breaks and months off, and the kids to take months off, especially in that middle school age range. And at the end of the day, just keep it fun. Remember what youth sports is about. It's about fun and character development. Let's keep it that way. If you got something from this podcast, share it with a friend. Would love to, hear your feedback. You can direct message us. Always get back to people. Appreciate you all for listening to this. Coach Furtado, out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend, coach, or parent you feel like would get value from this episode. It's our responsibility to impact as many parents and coaches who are the ones that are impacting our athletes. That's how we create a ripple effect. So thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to serving you all next week.